Welcome to tonight's edition of the Improve Yourself channel. I've got my brother Malcolm here, and we haven't done a show in a while, so I figured we'd get one here. It's late September, the last day of summer, or I think is either tomorrow or Malcolm. Do you know when the last day of summer is?
No, I think it's this weekend, but I'm not sure which specific day it was. I don't know if it's today or yesterday. I don't know.
Yeah, you don't really think of September as a summer month, but it actually most of it is summer, and it's been hot, so it makes sense.
Yeah, it's felt like summer still for sure. Yeah.
Definitely a lot of the reason why I haven't done many shows or anything is just the busyness of summer. I think summer is just naturally the busiest season for me as a parent.
Yeah, you think that's just kids' activities? They're out of school, they're running around more, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, and then vacations and social events. I think
Sure.
there's just more stuff going on as far as barbecues. It just seems like there's always something to do in the summer, and it doesn't really seem to slow down at all.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
So, I think things are going to start slowing down a little bit here. The kids are back in school. Um, Anything new with you?
Not a whole lot new with us. We're back into our regular rhythm and routine with school. I'm back to I teach, and so I'm back at school as well. And yeah, everything here has been really good. The kids are doing well at school. Some of the behavior stuff that my son dealt with last year has been a lot better this year. We've been doing a lot better with it. So yeah, things are going really well. Everything here is good.
Yeah, well, it it's not like we haven't had some bumps in the road here for my family, but things are going pretty well. We
Yeah.
just welcomed on August 28th our new son Eric, and so that was another reason why I was so busy over the summer too, with taking care of Kim with her being pending pregnancy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We got a brand new one, and so we've got he's
Great.
almost a month old now.
Yeah, it's great. It's awesome, man. And he's doing well.
Yeah, he's doing really well. He's actually sitting right next to me. He just had a bottle of milk and um, well, formula, of course, but
Yeah.
he's doing well with that. So,
Well,
Kim had a emergency C-section, and
yeah.
that was kind of scary. But one of the things that I thought of during that whole process, and especially afterwards, is you know we take a lot of things in our modern world for granted. We
Yeah.
complain a lot about like violence, or we complain about poverty. But really, when if you think about it, if we go back 100 years ago, chances are I would have lost at least one of my children, and maybe lost my wife with everything that's happened.
Yeah.
But with the
Absolutely.
advances of modern medicine, everybody's healthy.
Yeah, it's a really good point that we don't think about enough. We don't think about just the advances of modern medicine and modern technology and everything else. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's it's easy to be negative, but in all honesty, this is the best time to be a human.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's even the best time to be a poor person. I mean, poor people are eating more, living better lives than poor people have ever, done. So,
Yep.
are you watching the
Absolutely.
Oklahoma game?
Well, I was. I stepped into a different room for the podcast, so I don't
Oh,
have it in.
oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I had it on.
I have it on. Oklahoma or Tennessee had the ball. I'm sorry. Yeah, Tennessee had the ball, and Oklahoma brought a blitz around the corner. And as the quarterback was throwing it, it looks like he hit the hand of the quarterback with his helmet. Ball popped loose, and Oklahoma probably has first down and goal now.
Oh wow, Oklahoma has first and goal.
Yeah, so they probably will be able to tie it up.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pulling for the Sooners.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, and it's kind of one of those games too where you just kind of root for a close game, and since Tennessee is up 10-3, Oklahoma.
That's a good way to say it. Wanting a close game, I want to be watching in the second half. I don't want to.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
As far as things I've been doing to improve myself, so many of my habits have been challenged over the summer. As far as like when you get busy, uh, obviously your good habits get challenged too. You kind of prioritize certain things, and then sometimes your good habits kind of go on the wayside. And some of those things that I had been doing, I had kind of started getting lax on, especially my fasting.
Sure.
Probably throughout the entire summer, I started eating a lot more. And I gained 10 pounds of the weight that I had lost back. So I got all the way up to 185.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. So are you trying to refocus now?
Yeah.
Trying to
Well,
get
and
back.
I did refocus. Part of the refocusing was a week and a half ago, I signed up to do the Kansas City Marathon on October 19th.
The full marathon?
No, half marathon. Sorry.
Okay. Still, that's a challenge. When is it again? Say that
It's
again.
October 19th, I think. No, if that
Okay.
happens to be slightly wrong,
Oh, sure.
it's a weekend in mid-October. So just recently, I've been doing a little bit more working out and then increasing my fasting, trying to maybe lose that 10 pounds before the race so I can get kind of back into that running shape.
Yeah, get back to that running shape. That's good. Good to give you, and I think it's like we've talked about this before, but good to give yourself it's good to have like a target event or date where it's not just sort of this like I want to lose weight eventually, right? Or I want to get back in shape eventually, but to have a specific date, right? Like an event where you have to kind of be ready by that day. You know
Well,
what I mean? I think it's helpful.
and so here's the thing, and I think we've talked about this before with self improvement. It's just getting lax. I think everybody knows how to improve themselves for almost like a short term, and that's like what's easy. But to keep things going, to make them permanent changes to your life is really hard, not because of what you're doing is hard. It's almost because you get bored with doing it, or it just becomes so routine it doesn't feel important anymore, and you just start to gradually decline on even the
Yep.
little things, and then one more little thing goes and one more little thing goes, and then it ends up being where you're not in as good a shape as you were uh, when you kind of got to a certain degree of in fitness.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think you're totally right. I think you're right that there's almost like a I don't know, boredom. You said boredom, and I think that's
Mm-hmm.
part of it, right? Like you do the right thing, and it's not that it's hard; it's just that it's like it's so repetitive that you kind of feel like eventually it starts to feel it starts to feel boring.
Yeah. It's when you initially get on a weight loss program, it's pretty fun because I was pretty dedicated to it. I made some pretty significant lifestyle changes, and within a month or two, the neighbors were saying, "Hey, you've lost some weight." Every single time I went to see somebody, I was getting like a comment of, "Hey, you lost some weight." And then I
Yeah,
got down to where I was, and I was pretty fit, running a lot of miles and doing a lot of things, and I wasn't hearing those things anymore. You know, so you
yeah,
get to a plateau, and then it gets kind of boring, just sitting there in your good shape and your good health, right?
yeah,
No more compliments, no more, "Oh, wow, you're really making changes into your life." You have your energy, but you're like, okay, well, I have my
yeah.
energy.
Yeah, use that external validation. Yeah,
Yeah, you lose the external validation, and you almost lose like the change factor too. It was nice, whenever I first started doing all this, like feeling the energy of it.
yeah,
But then when you have that energy every day, it's pretty routine. So
yeah. Absolutely, I totally agree.
yeah, so to if anyone is to be listening, maybe you're in that stage of your improvement journey where you have made improvements, you have made significant changes in your life, and now you're in a lull, and you're kind of trying to find maybe a motivation to keep you going or get you to the next step. And you know, a marathon or a half marathon isn't for everybody, but if you could find something to kind of
Yeah,
revitalize your health journey, whether it be I want to hike a mountain, or I want to go on a swim. I want to do this, I want to do that. Maybe set some sort of trip goal and be able to do something to I know women do this almost every single year. They're like, I want to look better for the beach or something like that, and those things can be motivating.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just finding. Yeah, finding. I think, like we said, some like. Is there a concrete timeline? Right. We talk about like. I'm sure you've heard of this before, but like I talked to my students a couple of weeks ago about SMART goals. You
Mm-hmm.
know, which is like specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and if you make your goals of self improvement, if you follow those five things, you know, those are again like time bound is part of it. Like saying I have a timeline for when I want this to happen, right? Specific, like having a specific goal in mind. Like these are things that, yeah, and like you said, even when you, again, I think the point of this podcast too, right, is like we're not perfect people. We don't have it all figured out, right? Like you said, you gained 10 pounds. It's
Mm-hmm.
like we're not perfect at this, and so it's like you get back on the horse and you keep going, right? You just keep trying to improve yourself.
Yeah, for sure. I remember actually way back when one of my first motivating factors was, I go on that flow trip, which I didn't go this year, obviously, with Eric and everything going on, but I go on that flow trip usually at the end of summer.
Yeah.
And so a couple of years ago, the motivation was is I wanted to go on that flow trip and look good for the flow trip.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
And what was funny about that is I did lose enough weight for the flow trip and everything, but then that year it got canceled. They didn't
right.
book it, or it would. I think I remember talking to you about it. It's like I did all this work to lose the weight, and then we didn't even go on the flow trip.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
it's still having that specific trip in mind
Yeah.
gave you motivation and a timeline, right, to get there.
Right. Yeah. So kind of getting back on the horse here, and I'm feeling good. And obviously I only gained, I had lost, close to 40 pounds, and I only gained 10 back. So I was still, in the best shape of my life theoretically, and also
Sure.
I I hadn't stopped working out at work, and part of me wondered too if maybe I did, gain 10 pounds of muscle because I did do some, muscular based workouts too, but
Sure.
maybe 5 pounds of laxing off and 5 pounds of changing my workouts a little bit, but here we
Yeah.
are. So how I've been training for my marathon or my half marathon is running 10Ks, which 10Ks are about 6.3, 6.4 miles,
Yep.
which
Yep.
takes me about an hour. Um, it's hard to ever find time to train for a half marathon, like running 2 hours at a time. But
Yeah.
if you can make an hour run pretty routine, then when it comes to race day, the hour is routine, and then adrenaline's just going to pull you through.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it would be hard to fully train for that. I mean, I always think about that with marathon runners, where it's like I don't think they actually go out and do a whole lot of like they're not running a marathon every day to
Right.
train. You know what I mean?
Or even rarely. I mean, because normal humans don't have 4 hours to dedicate to that. In like a normal runner, unless you're like a really athlete, that's how long it takes someone to run a marathon, who's in decent shape or maybe even elite shape, is 4 hours. And you don't really have 4 hours that you want to give up too often to just running.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but an hour just seems really doable for me. So I can go out for an hour and just run and crank out a 10K. And and part of my mindset too is I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to try to run the 10K a little faster at a faster pace than what I want to run my marathon or my half marathon.
Sure.
So yeah, and that's why I chose the distance half marathon, because I just don't have time to train for a marathon right now, especially with 4 kids. That's
Of
that's a lot.
course. Yeah.
Maybe someday though. I mean, I wouldn't put it out of question.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think it's like building up to it, right? It's like I think naturally, like you've run 5Ks before, you run 10Ks before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the next step is a half marathon, right? And
Right.
you do that, and you see how it feels, and who knows, right? Like you might do it and feel better than you think.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe I could do a 20. You know what I mean? Do a marathon.
yeah, and then that adrenaline's a real thing too. You get race day, you get race day ready, and then you just keep running, and then you just kind of finish the marathon and feel like crap afterwards. But actually,
Yeah.
in all honesty, I bet if you told me I had to run a marathon tomorrow, I bet I could get it done in under 5 hours.
Sure. Sure.
And I
Yeah,
so,
I believe you could do it. Yeah.
I bet, yeah, I wouldn't feel great. It wouldn't be a fun run. It wouldn't be enjoyable.
No, you wouldn't like it. Yeah.
And that's really what and this is hard to believe for some people that just hate running. But I really did dislike running at a lot of points in my life. I always go back to my story about freshman soccer where all they wanted to do was have us run 2 miles. I just hated. I couldn't do it. And as a relatively athletic kid, but I just could not just run. I just didn't want to just run. I felt extremely uncomfortable, extremely just hyperventilating, everything just totally uncomfortable, and that carried on for most of my life, and I kept on seeing articles about the benefits of running and stuff, and I kept on trying it, even into college, post college. I still, even though I forced myself to do it, I hated every bit of the run. Like I was uncomfortable, but I was just having like a mental like dexterity to push through it. So I would run a 5K, but there was no enjoyment. It wasn't until this last year or the year before that I have found out how to run and actually run for enjoyment. And never before in my life have I been able to do that.
Yeah. What do you think that was? What do you think? Do
Well,
you think there was changed, or what do you think?
Obviously, I mentioned it on the podcast multiple times, but I think running with Apple Fitness and the Time to Run episodes were huge. There were some tips
Yeah.
on there. And one of the big things that Apple Fitness got me to do, and I had done these things on treadmills before, but Apple Fitness really hammered it home, is
Yeah.
finding your gears. And whatever it takes to eventually, like, so when you're running, right? And I've seen some other TikToks and people talking about this too. I was fortunately fit enough that I jumped into it really relatively quick, where my recovery speed was actually a slow jog, but a lot of people start as their recovery speed is walking, but
Yeah.
just doing a certain amount of time at a hard intensity and then gearing down to a moderate and then gearing down to recovery. And so
Sure.
now, what is so amazing, which isn't really amazing for if anyone's a runner that's listening to me, I'm a slow guy. Don't think I'm an amazing runner, but I have gears now. I can go hard, I can go moderate, and I can go easy while I'm
Yeah.
running. So, like, say if I'm on a treadmill, right? 6 miles
Yeah.
per hour is easy. I'm actually in recovery. I actually feel like I'm recovering at 6 miles per hour. And then I go up
Okay.
to 7 miles an hour, and that feels like a moderate intensity. And then I go up to 8 miles an hour, and that's hard. And I basically I'll do like a few minutes at 8, and it's actually like I'll turn the treadmill back down to 6, and it's like a refreshing like treat. I don't know how to explain it, that I
Yeah.
get to recover at 6 miles per hour. It's amazing. I would have never believed it back just even 3 years ago that it's changed this way, and that's why I'm able to run for an hour without stopping so easily now, because I have found those gears,
Right.
where even if a run is feeling rough, I know I can just get into recovery and just say, okay, well, today kind of sucks. It's hot out. Not
Yeah.
feeling this run. Today's legs aren't yesterday's legs, and I find that recovery pace. So
Yeah. And still running. You're just at that. Yeah. At that pace. Yeah.
yeah, and it's you get the runner's high, you get all that stuff, and it's really nice and really encouraging. So for anyone that's listening that does want to try out running, that's the recommendation I say to you, is if you can find gears. And then if running's not your thing, because obviously everybody has, if you can find your gears in any workout you do, whether it be elliptical, any kind of thing, I think high intensity interval training has been proven to really be a psychological winner as far as working out.
Yeah, yeah. That, I mean, yeah, everything I've read says the same. Yeah, that high intensity interval training. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, um, you know, in the I saw another thing about running too, and any sort of working out as far as mental dexterity and mental strength. When you push yourself through hard things, whether it be working out or something like that, sometimes your brain is more apt to push through hard things in life, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
when
Your resilience training.
resilience training, so you're doing it on a small scale while you run, um, or work out, or do the Iceman challenge, or do anything small. You're training your body to be resilient, and so then therefore, in life, when your kids are really running your gears, or you're going through a hard day at work, or you have a 50-hour work week, um, those things you can push through because you push through so well um, in other
Yeah,
situations of your life, you know.
yeah, for sure.
But before we wrap up here, is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, not particularly. I think this is good. I think just just the encouragement. For for me, I just thinking about how I can. I'm on this journey with you and with listeners, right? Where it's like trying to figure out the things that work in my schedule. As a single dad. And figuring out the things that I can do to, and not just physical health, but also mental and emotional health too. Finding those things that can just help make me a little bit better. I think that's always the goal, right? I think we've talked about that book Atomic Habits before, where it's like if you're just 1% better today than you were yesterday over the course of 100 days, you're 100% better. You know what I mean? Like that small incremental improvement. So no, nothing specific to add. Just encouraged by it. I appreciate coming on here. I appreciate having these talks because it encourages me to work on improving myself. So
Well,
yeah, I
yeah,
appreciate
and it's you know those small things, like you said, the small habits or things that you do, or just small things that challenge you every day. That every day maybe you can do one thing that challenges your brain, challenges you physically, challenges you to be a better person in whatever facet of your life it is. What's one small thing that challenges you? And when I say challenge, it makes you work, or push through it, get some mental dexterity. It might not be something you enjoy, but it's making you better. Can you push through and maybe do it for a minute, whatever the thing is,
it.
and then do it for
Yeah,
2 minutes?
yeah,
Whether
exactly.
whether it be reading, can you read a book for 1 minute? Can you read it for 2 minutes? Can you start reading these books
Yeah,
about like say you're in college and you're wanting to be a better student? Can you start studying 1 minute at a
yeah.
time? Can you give away 1 minute and then 2 minutes and then 3 minutes, and
And
then
build it up over time.
over time really start building up that mental dexterity to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. Small things, like you said, Atomic Habits. That was a real good book. I recommend it for anyone listening
I
that
do
wants to,
too.
yeah, make some small changes that do small doable changes, um, and not have to overhaul your life. We
Yeah.
haven't overhauled our life. We haven't really done anything exemplarily different, but happiness is a real thing, and if you make little changes, it can make you way happier. You know.
And we've said this so many times before, but it's like so many people also when they want to change their life, they make huge changes that they do for a week or two, but they can't keep those up.
Yeah.
Like what changes can you make that will still fit into your life that you can do for your life, not just for a couple weeks or a couple months.
Yeah, and that's one thing that's really. I wish I could get this vision out there to more people, because I
Yeah.
think what happens is, even Atomic Habits does this a little too much too, because
Sure.
I feel like people can get overwhelmed with it, and I think even in my previous show, I did it too, where I went on an improvement journey and I really got improved, right? So
Yeah.
then, whoever you're listening to, that's an improvement guru, has it figured out, and so they throw a lot at you, a lot of change, right? And
Yeah.
they're with it. So me, a few shows ago, I don't know if you remember, I was like, yeah, I've got reminders all over the place telling me what to do, do this, do that, do this, and I'm so productive. I'm not, I'm never stopping. I'm doing so many different things. And then to a
Yeah.
person that's never even set one reminder is like, oh hell, that sounds like
Yeah.
hell, right? So it's
Yeah.
overwhelming. Yeah, so it's like what we've got to do is break it down to a very small detail of maybe you set one reminder, one little thing that you want to do. You don't have
Yeah.
to have your entire, like me, 16 reminders that pop up at your phone every day that
Sure.
that might be overwhelming to some. It's not overwhelming to me because I worked up to it, right? I started with one reminder, then two, then three, and
Started. You didn't start with 16,
didn't
right?
start with 16. But a lot of times I feel like that's how people feel like whenever they read a self-improvement book. They're like, wow, this is overwhelming. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to you know be James Clear of Atomic Habits. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure he's
Yeah.
got his
Yeah.
life super well endowed, well taken care of, but
Right.
someone might like to not yell at their wife and kids.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
so
Yeah.
what
Right.
what small thing in your life can you do to not yell at your wife and kids anymore?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Or whatever your improvement is.
yeah,
Right. Exactly.
and obviously, yeah, if we ever do have a listener on this show, let me be clear. I'm throwing out different. I'm always trying to throw out different examples here and there.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Whether it be you want to run a 5K, okay, so you incrementally start running, smaller distances to get up to that, or you want to stop, you know,
Yeah.
punching your wife, only punch her once a day. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But-
Yeah. I
but-
get you. I keep saying though. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 So that I throw out a lot of examples of things because I think that's one of the beauties of sports is the parallel to life. That so many sports are athletic endeavors can be such a parallel to life, and I think that's why they're so valuable to a lot of people. Is that they can be a microcosm of your life. You know, the push to get through something, to sustain, to put yourself out there, can be a microcosm of your life. And for most athletes, that's how it is. Like, even at this D1 level where we're watching Tennessee and Oklahoma, most of these guys, they're going to have
Yeah.
jobs outside of football.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
they're going to use all the things that they learned in football, the teamwork, the pushing through hard practices in their jobs, in their raising kids, and all of that stuff.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Yeah, and that's why we're trying to get our kids into sports too. It's not because we think they're going to be athletes for the rest of their lives. It's because we want them to learn all those lessons, right?
Right. And then to be clear, it doesn't have to be sports. I mean, obviously, some kids could care less about sports, but Joshua just got in the math club actually.
Oh, nice. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So
Yep.
one day out of the week, Joshua will be with a special group of kids that's good at math or whatever, and so he's
Yeah, that's
gonna
awesome.
do that after school. And Joshua has two things that he says he wants to be when he gets older.
Okay.
One is a police officer. I'm like, okay. The second is an engineer. I'm like, wow, that's a wide range here.
Yeah, wide range. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the engineering things I was talking to Joshua about that's really interesting is the rear differential in cars.
Okay.
Do you know what that does?
No, I don't actually. I have no idea.
So and I didn't know this either, but so if you're driving a car, and the rear axle has the back wheels going at the same speed, right?
Right.
If you
Okay.
go around a turn, and this makes sense too, whenever you're going around a track, the inside person has the advantage, right? Because they have to go a shorter distance.
Yeah.
So when you turn one way or the other, the inside wheel has to go a shorter distance, and therefore it's going slower.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
It makes sense. Yeah.
So the rear differential is a little set of gears and stuff that
Yeah.
allows the inside wheels to go slower when going around curves, so they're not sliding or skidding.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah,
Never,
so it's
never occurred to me to think of that. Yeah.
yeah, you little things that cars are a lot more complicated than people think, and you just you hop in your car, turn it on, push the gas pedal, and it goes. But there's so many things that car is doing that you have no idea.
Yeah.
Right.
To make that happen. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So don't go out and try to build your sons a go-kart, because you got a lot of work to do.
He has a lot of engineering to figure out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot more than just throwing a lawnmower motor on there. And what's that?
It's a lot more than engine and wheels on a box.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot more, and unless you're just going to be sliding around and stuff like that. But yeah, rear differential. Amazing modern technology. We've gone so much from inventing the wheel, and then now we've got rear differential, where we can have the two back wheels of a car going different speeds, even at 80, 90 miles an hour.
Yeah, just crazy.
Yeah, just amazing. How smart people are, and we're smart too. I always talk about this with my other nurse friends, and sometimes we get kind of in a routine with our job, and we're like, anybody could do this job, right? And then you get an orientee that's never done the job, and you're like, oh wow, I know a lot more, because the orientee doesn't know anything, and they're asking you all these questions. You're like, wow, I know a lot of stuff.
You know a lot. Yeah.
So we all are smart, whether it be like, say, if Dad, obviously a truck driver, right? If we got into that truck, we'd have no idea what we were doing, and then Dad would be telling us all the stuff that he has to do to drive that truck, and we would be overwhelmed with it all. We'd be like, wow, there's just so much. The human brain's amazing. So
yeah, it totally, it's
all right, well, we're kind of going off on a tangent here, so we're at 32 minutes on the video. I'll go ahead and end the video, and then I will text you about this game, let you get back into it.
Yeah, so I'll get back in front of it and see if the Sooners can pull it off.
Well, it's not looking good. I hadn't been updated yet. They fumbled after getting that
first and goal. They fumbled it.
Yeah. So, all right, man. Well, I'll text you later.
Later, brother.
All right. See you. Bye.
Yep.